Hello. Hello. Hi gang, and welcome to my channel. This is my very first YouTube video. I'm a bit nervous and really excited at the same time. My name is Natalie. I have a blog and Instagram called Nat's Mental Health, where I have been blogging about my journey with mental illness for the past couple of years. I currently live on beautiful Vancouver Island, British Columbia in Canada. I'll take this opportunity to acknowledge that I am a visitor here on the Lekwungen and Songhees traditional territory. I immigrated here from Scotland about 9 years ago, and I absolutely love this country. So let's get into it. So let's start talking about the difference between mental illness and mental health. Two very different things. Mental health is the overall wellness, the overall scope of wellness in our minds. Mental illness is an impairment of that wellness, an impairment in emotional, behavioural, and cognitive function. It's actually astounding the numbers on how many people suffer from mental illness around the world. In 2017, the World Health Organization released some statistics. 792 million people worldwide have been impacted directly by a mental illness. That is just, wow, 792 million people. And you can only imagine how much those numbers have went up given a worldwide pandemic. So let's talk about my experience with mental illness. For as long as I remember, I've been on a bit of a journey with mental illness. Let's say sometimes a roller coaster. My first depressive episode that I can remember was 11 years old. I couldn't really understand the emotions and thoughts that were buzzing around my head. I felt too much for people. I was often told I was too much for people. I was too intense, too emotional, too hyper, too sensitive. That really didn't help my moods at all. I continued going through depressive episodes and bouncing between a bit of a high in between where I'd be really hyper, really full of energy and could accomplish quite a lot. By the age of 14, I was self-harming. I couldn't cope. And mental health education wasn't really prominent. It wasn't spoken about. We were kind of shunned and stigmatized. Still are. But not as much. We've come a long way. By the age of 18, I was in a psych ward in Scotland. Remember it vividly. Being asked at the age of 18 years old, what did I have to be depressed about? I couldn't understand my emotions, let alone articulate them at that point. Fast forward 7 years, I had my most major episode. I was hospitalised here in Canada under the Mental Health Act and held in the psychiatric ward involuntary, which, as you can imagine, is quite a frightening experience. 6 months later, I finally had a diagnosis. I was labelled bipolar 1 and PTSD, which, although was daunting at the time, really shone light on my illness, my symptoms, and allowed me to take those steps to recovery and work on care strategies and find a better way to manage with this new illness. So you may be thinking, what is bipolar disorder? Bipolar disorder is a mental illness that is categorized by severe changes in moods. We all have changes in moods, that is the ebbs and flows of life. The difference I'm pointing out here is that bipolar is a severe change in mood. You're not going from happy to sad, you're going from depressed and suicidal to manic and out of control. For me, anyway. There's various types of bipolar disorder as categorized by the DSM-5. Bipolar disorder affects 46 million people worldwide. For pretty much all mental and physical illness, symptoms vary from person to person. Each individual is so unique, and so is their illness. For me, mania and depression were so prominent from youth that I was kind of growing used to it. The biggest part for me in my worst episode was psychosis. I was not prepared for it. I didn't really know anything about it, and it caught me off guard. Psychosis is, let's call it a complete break in reality. Delusions, so thoughts and beliefs that are not congruent with the average life. Voice hearing, I heard lots of voices. I smelled things. I tasted things. I saw things, none of which were there. None of which were there. I was in that state for 6 whole months before being hospitalized, and it was a dangerous time. I was homeless and sleeping in my car. I'd sold all my belongings and believed I was Jesus. Yeah, there's a lot more to that. We'll get into it at some other point. But yeah, bipolar is a varied spectrum, and it can be quite frightening. We still have a long way to go in mental illness education, awareness, and reducing stigma, which is the whole purpose of this channel. Okay, I've harped on long enough. I really hope you found it interesting to learn a little bit about bipolar disorder, a little bit about my experience. My hope is to bring more content to the channel. It really is my mission to spread awareness and education, push for change within the system, and support others where I can. I feel like this is my calling in life, and I really want to give back to the teams and strategies that saved my life. If there's anything you'd like to talk about, you'd like to hear about, or you just have some comments, feel free to share them with me. Please take care, look after yourself. Bye!